welcome to another tutorial where I make an online Python compiler where you can write code and run code in Python on the web in this online IDE. So as you can see, I can have a little print statement. I can just run basic Python in this IDE, and then I can just run it. Some cool features are like little shortcuts, like when you press Ctrl Enter, it'll automatically run it instead of manually having to click the run button right here. Another cool feature is also storage, so every time I reload the page, it wouldn't actually erase all my code. It would just fetch the code from my local storage right here, and it would just save it automatically. Another feature is also indentation. If you press tab inside, you'll be able to indent in the text box. And yeah, that's about it. So to dive right in, I'm going to be using VS Code for my project, but you can use whatever IDE you wanted to use. So I'm just going to open up my VS Code project right here. I'm going to make my index.html file, create some boilerplate code. And the main library or thing that we're going to use to run Python in the web in HTML is Pyscript. So you can kind of like read the guide and tutorial of how to get started with Pyscript. It allows us to run Python in the browser. So I'm going to copy paste these two lines right here to import the script and file into our project and web page. That should automatically download Pyscript. But if I open this in a live browser, right, my development browser, you can see the little splash screen, this thing showing up, and I don't really like that. And there's a little config that you can do to kind of disable that. You want to put the config element, and passing into that, you want to put splash screen and set it enabled to, you want to disable it. Sorry, I'm tripping up. Enable is equal to false. Enable is equal to false. And that should fix it right there. Where did it go? Yeah, it should be gone. Okay. Can I keep this side by side right here? Okay, cool. So once that's done, I'm gonna set up the basic kind of front end. I'm not gonna like have a really nice like styled CSS, but you can definitely do that on your own. About how like basic CSS to kind of make it look okay or runnable. I'm gonna create a text area, make the IDE to IDE, and then we can pass the default text to it and just put print hello, like that. That's gonna be your default text. And then I'm gonna have break statements, line break. So then I can add a run button right here. Type equals to the button. This could be run. And then just gonna set the ID to run script. You can set it to whatever ID, but I'm just gonna put it as run script. And then I'm gonna load an external script file from the project and set the src to script.js. Okay, that's the basic front end for our page. And then I'll just create my script.js file right here. And this is when the real things start happening. Okay. So for the documentation on Pyscript, right? Oh my bad. Pyscript. If you go to the documentation of Pyscript, you'll be able to see that this is actually what makes it load. Like that's how you actually execute the inline Python right here. That's how you can actually put the Python code and run it. So yeah, so we're gonna create I'm gonna create a variable called Python load, and I'll just create an element of Pyscript. And this is where we put all our Python code inside the text content of Pyscript. And then I'm just going to create my IDE referencing the element ID that we created in our HTML file of the IDE, which is just referring to the text area right here. And then we can set the value of that IDE, or you can say text content, the value of that IDE to be, like I said, we're going to be using local storage to fetch any data that, if they previously saved it, we're going to fetch it and then render that into the text field. Or if there isn't any local storage previous data, then we will just default render the print hello right here. So we're going to set the IDE value to be able to get from the local storage, get item, load Python. You can call your local storage. I'm just referencing it from now because we're going to have a save function to automatically save the Python code inside. Looks like I already have local storage here. I'm just going to clear that from now. Okay, so we're going to load the Python thing, but we're going to check. We're going to have a ternary operation statement right here. So if the local storage is not equal to null, right, we're going to parse it as a JSON. We're going to JSON parse it. And then we're going to get the item of the local storage dot get item load Python. And then I'm just going to grab the text property from that. Okay. Oh, I don't think I did that right. I'm sorry, I'm tripping out a bit. Yeah, dot text. Else, if there is no local storage for this given load Python key, then I'll just default render the print hello. There you go. And the reason why I put the text property is because you could probably use your local storage property to be anything else, but I'm just going to be using text for that JSON property right there. Okay. And then what we can do is we can set the Python load text content to be able to run this entire line from the IDE. And then we can append the create Python load to our body element. And there you go. Okay, should be able to run slow Python in the browser. There you go. I did 2 to 5 plus 5. Oh, we haven't done our run event yet. You see, this only rendered because we set the default value of create Python load to be print hello. That's what actually ran it. So essentially, the IDE is kind of like the front end, what you're seeing, like what you're typing in here, and then the create Python load does the actual work of taking whatever characters or text you put into the IDE, and then displaying an output based off of that, whatever you wrote in your IDE. Okay, so now I'm going to create a reference to my run button. Document.getElementById, the run script. It's referring back to my button right here. And then we're going to add an event listener to that run button. It's going to be a click, and it's going to return an event based off of that. And then we're going to set the Python script to be Python script content to be the document.getElementById, the IDE. You don't need to do this, but I'm just doing this to help me better understand the code. So yeah, you could just reference IDE again, I don't know. And I'm going to set the text content to be equivalent to that value of the IDE right here, yeah. And then we can just append the child again to re-render it. Although I don't think it makes a huge difference if you append the child again. I'm just gonna do a little test real quick. So yeah, okay, does that. But do I really need this piece of code? Let's see. Yeah, I do. Okay. Yeah, you need to append it again. Yeah, okay. I did that right. So yeah. And what you may notice is that it might be really annoying, like once you're typing, to like click and run again. So that's why we're gonna add the Control plus Enter feature to run our script as a keyboard shortcut. So anytime we're in our document body, like DOM, we're gonna add an event listener to our body element, the actual body of the HTML file. And we're gonna have a key down event. We take an event, and if the event dot control key is pressed, and the event dot I think it was key, yeah, is equal to enter. If they basically press control and enter at the same time, then what we're going to do is essentially the same thing as whatever or button did. We can do the same thing. We're just going to do the exact same thing. So let's test it out. So if I do print 2 plus 2, you can see I don't have to click and press run again. I can just press control enter. Yeah. Okay. But one issue is that we're not able to indent, right? If I press tab on my keyboard, you can see that it's going to different things around my browser and page. We're not able to indent. We have to manually do the spaces with the space bar, and that's not really convenient as a programmer. So we're going to add an indentation functionality to this. So I'm going to reference my text areas. If you have multiple text areas, I'm just going to be referencing it. I'm going to get elements by tag name, text areas as text area. And I'm just going to set a count to get the length of all the text areas in our DOM. And then we're going to iterate through all of them. While I is less than count, we're going to do I plus plus. And getting an index I for text areas, if we're going to add an on key down event for that. And if the key code for e.key code, yeah, this is deprecated, but it's still effective. So if that's equal to, oh, I did not have my conditional statement right there. If e.key code is equal to 9, or e.which is equal to 9, then we do this. You might be wondering why I have a random number 9. It's because in DOM and if you're in, yeah, the document object model and just how JavaScript web APIs work is there's a unique number that maps to anything that you press on your keyboard. So if I press like W on my keyboard, right, I think that's 38 or 39. So it's one of those numbers. So yeah, just like that, everything you have on your keyboard is a unique number corresponding for the key code. So yeah, so for this number, which is tab, when you press tab, that references key code 9. So when we do that, we're going to prevent the default function for that because we don't want it to do anything weird. I'm going to set a variable s to reference the selection start of whatever we are in that text area. And then I'm just going to set this dot value to be a concatenation of the substring starting from index 0 to the selection start, and then adding the backslash n character tab thing, and then to the end of the selection end, concatenating these two things from the selection end. Okay, and then we just add +1. Selection and s +1. Okay, let's see if that works. Yep, we're able to properly tab into our thing. Okay, now we can add a local storage property to automatically save whatever we wrote in our IDE and input text area. So we can add an event listener to our IDE that listens for any input that happens and triggers an event. And then we can initialize a clear timeout to test if the user stopped typing. Just going to set an empty variable timeout ID. So clear timeout, reference that timeout ID, and then we can set the timeout ID to be a set timeout function that runs for 1 second after they stop typing. And then we can just set the local storage. I'm referencing back to local storage to set the item of the load Python key value. Just the key. Sorry. And then we turn into JSON for the text property to be the IDE.value. So yeah, as you can see, I'm using load Python right here to get the Python, to get the value associated with the key of load Python, and then setting the key of load Python to this JSON stringify of the text which holds the IDE text content or value. And then yeah, we just, if you refresh, let's see if I wrote a bunch of gibberish right here. If I refresh my page, it should be able to get it from my local storage and render it. Yeah, okay, so that's the JavaScript and everything functionality, but I'm just gonna style it up a bit and then we should be good to go. We need to set the styles to be this stuff. So I'm just gonna set my, okay, I don't like how the you see the little terminal right here. I don't like how it extends throughout the whole page, so I'm gonna set its width to be like 50%. Yeah, right there. And then also we can style our IDE a bit. We can set the height to like 400 pixels. The width can be like 50%. And then font family we can set to monospace to get that little hacking coding font. Monospace. So yeah, you can get a nice coding font. Set the size a bit more. Yeah, 14 pixels, and the line height to 1.5. And I think that should be good to go. Test it out a bit. There you go. Return file. Pretty cool. That's about it.